Welcome to LearnSphere. In this video, we'll be solving quadratic equations using completing the square method. For the first example, we have the following quadratic equation, which is x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals to 0. For this method, we firstly have to bring down the first two terms and copy it down. Therefore, we have x squared plus 6x. Next, we have to use the completing the square formula, which is plus bracket b over 2 squared. Then we put in the third term, which is positive 5, followed by minus bracket b over 2 squared, and equate it to 0. So generally, for completing the square method, we have to add bracket b over 2 squared and minus off the bracket b over 2 squared. Now, for the value of b, it is a coefficient of x, which is positive 6. So our value for b is 6. Now we can substitute positive 6 into b. Therefore, our equation becomes x squared plus 6x plus bracket 6 over 2 squared plus 5 minus bracket 6 over 2 squared equals to 0. Now we can simplify our equation into the completing the square form. So from the first three terms, we can simplify into a bracket with a square, where the contents of the brackets are firstly, from the first term x squared, it can be reduced to x. And from the third term, which is 6 over 2, can be reduced into positive 3. Next, we rewrite the fourth and fifth term, which is positive 5 and negative 3 squared, and equate it to 0. Now, for the completing the square form, we will have it to be bracket x plus 3 squared plus 5 minus 9 equals to 0, which can be further reduced to bracket x plus 3 squared minus 4 equals to 0. So this is the completing the square form. And to solve this equation, we have to bring the constant over to the right-hand side. Therefore, we have bracket x plus 3 squared on the left-hand side, followed by positive 4 on the right-hand side. And to get rid of the squared from the brackets, we have to square root both sides, which will eliminate the squared on the left-hand side. And therefore, we have x plus 3 equals to positive negative square root 4. And x plus 3 equals to positive 2 for our first equation, and x plus 3 equals to negative 2. And therefore, we can further simplify for our answers to get x equals to 2 minus 3, which gives us negative 1, and x equals to negative 2 minus 3, which is negative 5. Therefore, the two answers for x values are negative 1 and negative 5. For example 2, we have the following equation of x squared minus 8x minus 12 equals to 0. Similar to the first example, we have to firstly bring down the first two terms, which are x squared and negative 8x. Then we have to add in positive b over 2 squared. Then we rewrite the third term, which is negative 12. And we have to minus off the b over 2 squared and equate it to 0. Now for this example, the quotient of x is negative 8. Therefore, the value for b in this example is negative 8, and you can substitute it into the equation, and we will get x squared minus 8x plus minus 8 over 2 squared minus 12 minus 8 over 2 bracket squared. Now we can put it in the completing the square form, where from the first three term, it will be simplified to a bracket with a square. From the first term, x squared, it will be the first content which can be reduced to x. And from the third term, minus 8 over 2 bracket squared, it will be reduced to minus 4. Then we can rewrite our fourth and fifth term, which are negative 12 and negative bracket negative 4 squared, and equate it to 0. This equation can further be simplified to x minus 4 bracket squared minus 12 minus 16 equals to 0. And therefore, our completing the square form would be bracket x minus 4 squared minus 28 equals to 0. Now to solve for the completing the square form, we have to firstly bring the constant over to the right hand side. We'll get the equation of bracket x minus 4 bracket squared on the left hand side equals to positive 28. And to get rid of the squared, we have to implement a square root on the left and right hand side, where it will cancel out the squared that we have on the left hand side. Therefore, our equation can be reduced to x minus 4 equals to positive negative square root 28. And we will have two equations, which are x minus 4 equals to positive square root 28 and x minus 4 equals to negative square root 28. Now to solve for x, we generally have to bring the negative over to the right hand side, where we'll get x equals to positive square root 28 plus 4. And for the first answer for x, we can put the values in the calculator, where we'll get 9.29 in three significant figures. And for the second answer for x, we have x equals to negative square root 28 plus 4, which, when we put into our calculator, will give us, in three significant figure, negative 1.29. Therefore, the two answers for x values are 9.29 and negative 1.29. Let's go on to the third example, where we have the following equation of 2x squared plus 12x plus 7 equals to 0. For this equation, it's slightly more challenging because the coefficient of x squared is not 1. In this equation, the coefficient of x squared is 2, and therefore, we have to reduce it to get a coefficient of x squared to be 1 by dividing the whole equation by 2, where we'll get the equation to be x squared plus 6x plus 7 over 2 equals to 0. Now, when we have the equation of x squared to be 1, we can simply go on to do the same method as the previous two examples by firstly bringing down the first two terms, which are x squared and positive 6x. Next, we have to add in our b over 2 squared. And we have to rewrite the third term, which is positive 7 over 2. And we have to minus off b over 2 squared and equate it to 0. In this equation, we have our b value, which is the coefficient of x, to be positive 6. So therefore, our equation would be x squared plus 6x plus bracket 6 over 2 squared plus 7 over 2 minus 6 over 2 squared equals to 0. From this equation, we can put it in the completing the square form, which is from the first three terms, it will be in a bracket with a squared, where the contents of it are, firstly, from the first term, x squared, it will be reduced to x, and from the third term, 6 over 2, it can be reduced to positive 3. And we can rewrite the fourth and fifth term, which are 7 over 2 minus bracket 3 squared equals to 0. And the completing the square form can further be simplified, which will give us bracket x plus 3 squared minus 5.5. Now, to solve for the completing the square form and to get the value of x, we simply have to bring the constant over to the right hand side, where we'll get bracket x plus 3 bracket squared on the left hand side equals to positive 5.5. Next, to get rid of the squared, we implement a square root on both sides, and it will cancel out the squared, which will give us the equation of x plus 3 equals to positive negative square root 5.5. Now we can have two equations to solve for x, which are x plus 3 equals to positive square root 5.5 and x plus 3 equals to negative square root 5.5. To solve for x, on the left hand side, we can take x equals to positive square root 5.5 minus 3, which will give us in 3SF negative 0.0 0.655. And for our second answer, by bringing positive 3 over to the right-hand side, it will be negative square root 5.5 minus 3, which will give us, in 3SF, minus 5.35. Therefore, the two answers for the values of x are x equals to negative 0.655 or negative 5.35. Thank you for watching.